Welcome back as we next look at some practical methods of bending soft-drawn ACR tubing. Whenever you find yourself having to make up and fit tubing, you will always have to create bends in order to route the tubing neatly between components. One of the advantages of soft-drawn tubing is the comparative ease of bending. This is obvious when we unroll a section. One of the problems, however, is that overbending results in a kink or restriction which would seriously affect refrigerant flow in a system. A general rule for bending is to never create a tight bend. The maximum bend must not have a radius that is less than 5 times the tube diameter. An ideal bend has a radius of 10 times the diameter. Two types of tools are used to assist in creating acceptable bends, namely lever-type benders and spring benders. The lever bender is the preferred tool for creating professional and efficient tube bends. A spring bender is useful whenever on a plant we need to make up a tube to follow an existing line. Let's turn our attention to lever-type benders, specifically this particular tool, which has been designed to bend 1/4 inch tubing only. There are lever benders made for every standard tube size. In our demonstration, we shall learn how to create a typical tube that must be bent exactly to a prescribed shape drawn out on our marking table. Beginning with our straight section, one end is marked, which we shall designate as our fixed end. We next lay the tube upon the projection with the fixed end against a reference edge. Next, the tube is marked exactly upon the center line of our projection. As you can see, we will be creating a 90-degree bend. The tube is placed into the bender as demonstrated, keeping the referenced end, in this example, to the left-hand side of the forming wheel. Now the bending lever is brought onto the tube. You will now notice the various marks etched onto the bender shoe and the forming wheel. The tube is positioned so that the mark we made on it lines up with the L mark on the bending shoe. The letter L means left hand in respect of our tube end reference. The marks around the forming wheel are angles. The reference to any desired angle is made using the 0 mark on the bending shoe and its alignment to the angles etched onto the forming wheel. To create a 90-degree bend, we steadily pull the bending lever until the desired angle is reached in respect of the 0 of the shoe. If our work has been accurate, the tube will line up exactly upon the center lines. The second bend is now marked against the drawing. Once more, the tube is fitted into the lever bender with the fixed end set to the left. We must set the tube to create a reverse bend and align the plane using the first leg as a reference. As previously demonstrated, the bending mark is set to align with the L mark, and the bend is created. Once again, the accuracy of our work can be checked against the drawing on the marking bench. Whenever it is necessary to make a bend with the referenced end to the right of the forming wheel, set your tube mark to the R reference on the shoe. Spring benders, as mentioned, are most practically used for creating bends of nondescript formation, most usually to make up a tube that must follow the line of an existing tube. A tube may be manually shaped within the spring area to create virtually any desired bend. An important point regarding the spring is to remove it only by twisting. Pulling it directly will distort the spring coils. In the absence of benders, you can still create directional changes to tubes by using pre-manufactured fittings, like this 90-degree solder elbow. In essence, a solder elbow is simply a convenient component which is brazed in exactly the same manner as we learnt with swage joints. This brings us to the end of this program. We have covered only the basics of tube work. As you progress in the field of installation and tube work, you will learn many more techniques and procedures. For the moment, you will have progressed well if you learn to master the skills explained in this program. Join us again in other Tech AV programs related to refrigeration principles and maintenance.